I'm putting together a special report for clients about leveraging government programs to boost the profitability of land and other types of investments. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. I'm going to share with you a brief overview of this report that I'm putting together for private clients. It doesn't mean the report's available to you, but I think there are key functions of government programs that, if you understand how to use them, can be extremely profitable for your business. So one of the things that I used to do as a business development consultant back in the day, working for government contractors, is I would usually get either hired by a huge, massive national government contractor. And I'm pretty sure I wasn't the only person being hired to do this, because I met some of the other people, but we were set up like bird dogs. And our duty was to go out and find an 8A or a minority-owned business that is in a certain subject matter area and kind of woo them to partner with the large organization. Now, there are 8A mentor-protege programs. There are all kinds of programs. But these large contractors, and I won't name their names, but I've worked for some of the largest government contractors in America that are essentially looking for these setups. And now, what do I mean by a setup? They're looking for a subject matter expert in the area of X that is a minority business that's located in a hub zone that has some kind of special government designation, because they know that federal contracts give preference to these individuals. They want to make sure that the company can legitimately, both financially and performance-wise, deliver on these contracts. And basically what they would do is front these companies to go get a job. So they take them and put them in front of the U.S. Navy, and the U.S. Navy would give them a bigger than average contract, which then the large company would backstop. Now, you might be saying, well, that sounds a little manipulative. Sounds like they're taking advantage of the system. The system is neutral. What these large companies recognized was that the smaller companies had trouble marketing. The smaller companies had limited resources. The smaller companies had challenges that limited their ability to get into the marketplace. So what they did is they used these programs to position the smaller company while backstopping or funding the engagement, because the company normally wouldn't be able to do that. This large company spends hundreds of $millions a month on marketing. It's not a big expense to them. And what would happen is it would allow the small company to get in the door, and then after 3 to 5 years, the larger company would just buy them out. So it was a way for the larger company to get staff on site, the larger company to get access to a portfolio. But the key to get in the door was an 8A or a hub zone or a minority or woman-owned business, a veteran-owned business. You just name the category. They were positioning these companies for success. They weren't taking advantage of them. They were positioning them for success and placing them in places that would open the door for additional contract. So now the different contracts have different rules, but a lot of times 20% of the primary effort of the contract could be in the small business, and the other 80% could be in the large business. And there's some contract, I would work through the contracts and such, but essentially you could have half the program office in the small business and the other half being done by the large business. And in the small business profited, because the small business didn't have like Delco or whatever these, Deltec, I think it was called, all these back-end accounting systems. They didn't have the legal people to make sure there was a good contract. It was just a wonderful setup. Once I noticed the pattern in the setup, I actually went to the small businesses and worked with the small businesses to find themselves large companies to partner with. So I was kind of a middleman. Some large companies would pay me to find small businesses, and some small businesses would pay me to find big businesses. And then when they closed the contract, I got a percentage out of their marketing fund. Sometimes I worked on the contract. It just all depends on the situation. But the reason I'm sharing this with you is because they used existing government programs to leverage their position in the marketplace to gain additional business. Now, how does this work if you're buying land? Well, there are things such as the Community Reinvestment Act. There are things such as opportunity zones. There are different categorizations. I already mentioned hub zones. Different categorizations where the government wants you to invest in a certain area, and they will reward you. So an opportunity zone, they reward you by adjusting the cost basis. So you buy a piece of land, and I go into more detail in the report. They're adjusting the cost basis so that when you sell the land, it has this kind of premium added to it so that you pay less taxes on the sale. In some cases, the land, you can buy it and put it in conservation. They fix it so that you have a tax benefit up front. There's all these different categories, all these different factors. All of them help you stretch your dollar so that you can invest a smaller amount of money and gain access or control over a larger amount of land. So that's how it works in the land world. But here's the secret to all these programs. These programs should not be your primary purpose in business. If you need these programs to be successful in your business, in your personal finance, in your local investments, then something's wrong. Your numbers are not right. You don't have a good model to work with. And these are some of the things I help clients with. They want the next grant, the next federal program. They want to see if they qualify for some free money from the government. That is the worst possible approach, because what happens is they ignore why the government is giving out this money. Now, if you think the government is altruistic and they're setting up these programs to help minorities, and they're setting up these programs to help farmers, and they're setting up these programs to give relief to people, then you are ignorant. The truth of it is, it's really about power. If the government gives you money to get your business going, let's say it's a hiring preference. They give you a hiring preference so that your business gets the award, the contract award. That contract award comes with all kinds of requirements that you would not have if you got that contract on your own. And a lot of minority-owned businesses, a lot of small businesses are led to believe that they are not going to get that contract unless the government helps them. But the truth of the matter is the only color it really matters is green. And if you're qualified to do the work, if you've got a good performance plan and excellent marketing, you're going to get in and be able to do this job, whether there's a program or not. Now, the program becomes icing on the cake because the program kind of sweetens the deal. But if you couldn't get that deal without that program, then you're going to end up being subordinate to the government. So a small business loan, lower interest rate, but it's got qualifications that require monitoring over time. Now, not every loan does, but the COVID loans, for example, the PPP loans, required you to use the money a certain way. USDA loans, for example, are used for specific on-farm purposes. So their watering system that they want you to buy is because some politician made a deal with a company and bulk purchased these things or has a kickback so that they can get you these programs. They front it with a loan program, and now you get a loan or a grant and you get that specific water. Is that water the right water for your cattle? Is the design proper for the land? I was looking at land around here in the Henry County area, and there's quite a few farms that got these government-paid watering systems, and they were just basically installed in the most ignorant, horrible way possible. So, for example, they had a water that can go in the fence line and have the animals can water from either paddock. I know you might not understand what I'm talking about here, but basically it allows watering from both sides. And it's set up in the middle of a fence on a hill, and there's erosion around it. It's about to come out of the ground. When just 30 feet over, there was a more level space where the fences met each other at a more level area where the animals could come and water with the same system, and it would have been very useful. And then down a little further, you're going to find 4 paddocks that connect with each other in a T. Well, that water that they gave for you on the grant is not the right kind of water for that pivot point, and you end up losing an opportunity to feed 4 paddocks off of one water source. And so a lot of these programs are poorly implemented, and if you use the program, you get trapped in the program if you have no other choice. A lot of these federal programs, when I was going out and finding these 8A contractors or these minority-owned businesses, a lot of these contracts had regulatory issues that if that small business got that contract on their own, they'd have to hire like a whole team of people to make sure they maintain compliance to the contract itself. A lot of federal contracts come with wage categorizations. They come with hiring percentages. So, for example, a hub zone business has to have a certain number of employees in the hub zone. If you're going to locate your business in a hub zone for the sake of being in a hub zone, you're going to miss out on the ability to get good employees there. You're going to miss out on the opportunity of getting a good price on your space. There's a lot of factors that go into that decision making. But the gist of my report is that if you do it right, primarily have a good foundational business, these government programs become icing on the cake. It's the difference between a 5% loan and a 1% loan. It's the difference between getting approved for a loan where you're overextending your credit line, or getting a loan that is a better interest rate and approved, and if there's a small pool of money in that local bank, you get to the top of the list. Now, you want these setups, but these setups should not be the only way you can afford this deal. I've worked with clients who have done cash deals financed. Now, you might be saying, well, Justin, if it's a cash deal, why don't they just pay cash? Well, the financing was so good. And that the federal government matched the funds. The local bank had relationship value to have the loan there. In fact, this one guy went and paid his loan in person so he could talk to the bank manager. He could have just paid the whole loan in cash. But again, the cash was better utilized somewhere else. The loan gave him favorable terms. The loan gave him access to programs. So some of these programs will supplement your training for staff. And so it is a utilization approach rather than just a free money from the government approach. Again, the government doesn't give this money away for your needs. It gives the money away to maintain control. It gives money away to revitalize things based on their project and their objectives. They're really odd programs. Now, I'm not saying that they're bad programs. I'm just saying the private market could solve the problem better. So, for example, student loans. If you have to have student loans to go to college, maybe college isn't the right choice because student loans themselves inflate the price of college. So perhaps go to a community college. You send your kids to community college, get their first 2 years out of the way, and then transfer into another school already with their basics out of the way, and then get into their specialty programs. The student loan itself inflates the marketplace. HUD financing for housing, FHA loans, inflates the marketplace. The economics of that is understanding that if there's a lot of liquidity in the market and that liquidity is easy to get, people are willing to pay more for the purchase. So you want to be aware these programs are available, but you want to have a business plan or an investment plan that is going to work whether these plans come or go. See, you could have a political change, and just like President Obama and President Clinton pushed the Opportunity Zone programs. President Trump changed the Opportunity programs, and now Biden changed it again. Well, if you're dependent on an Opportunity Zone setup or arrangement, it just got changed 3 times, and it may not be favorable to you. So again, the gist is don't use the programs unless it's a plus money, unless it brings extra value. This goes into scenario analysis. So we do a lot of scenario analysis. Should we refinance in this program or refinance in that program or just pay cash? Which one's the best deal? Which is the best solution? And then we start looking at the fundamentals. The fundamentals are cost of capital. Does this program lower my cost of capital? Now you want to match your cost of capital with overhead, because now if you're using a federal program and it has administrative charges to it, well, you could just get a regular loan at a higher interest rate with no administration, and it could cost less over time than a fancy loan with the government that has higher administration. Do you see where I'm going here? So you can build sustainable wealth by using these programs. Many large companies do this. They'll come into a town and they will make a deal with the town so they don't have property tax, or so that the first 5 years they have no local taxes. And that's great. But if that factory wouldn't stand on its own without all that stuff, then they're actually increasing their risk. And I don't believe you need to increase your risk to increase your returns. I believe there's ways to get fractional returns through multiple streams. There's ways to set up an opportunity, just like going to subject matter experts. They never told me to go find me some minority-owned businesses that we can front to get into these contract areas. They always told me to find qualified individuals. Find these people who can do this work. Find these specialists. And sometimes we would find people in the company that they would basically retire from the company. I'm using air quotes. They'd set them up in their own business, support them with legal things. They'd set them up in a mentor program and then put them out on a contract so that you can get the back end. See, that works. Qualified people, a good financial cash flow, a good opportunity. The government program is plus to the deal. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. If you've got questions about leveraging government programs to increase your profits while increasing your stability in the wealth accumulation of your activity, then visit me at www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com. This has been about the report I'm putting together for clients. I can't go into a lot of detail about it because this is for private clients, but you can certainly ask your questions that may have been sparked by this particular podcast. It's really about how do we plus what we're doing with the government program rather than depend on the government program, because again, the government program is for the government. It increases overall costs. And it also increases your taxes. So no sense getting something and then having to pay more taxes to have it. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. Thanks for listening.